Hey, thanks for checking out the channel, everybody. Tobin here with you. If you guys could subscribe here, subscribe to the WQAM YouTube page. Watch Tobin and Leroy every single weekday live, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then it's there for you on demand. So check that on out. Much appreciated. Looking forward to another fun week. It's D-Wade Hall of Fame week, so that should be fun. Looking forward to all the stuff we got coming forward for that. Miami Dolphins got a couple of days off, and they got some joint practices this week, which are always fun, heated competition. So some fun stuff coming that way. But listen, had to do something this weekend where I haven't been able to be boots on the ground in a while, not since the NBA Finals. I guess technically going to Vegas for one of the fights was boots on the ground, but for the local teams, haven't been able to be boots on the ground for a while. And this weekend, Bam Adebayo had his basketball camp over at Slam Miami, and they said he was going to talk to the media. So I went on down there, and really great event. Got to meet a lot of great people. Bam's Foundation, they do just a fantastic job over there. Everybody does a great job, and does that to benefit single mothers. It's something very close to Bam's heart with everybody knows the tremendous relationship that he has with his mom and the way that she's raised him and all that stuff. And, so he's doing a lot of great work in the community. And, you could just tell what a lot of his teammates think about him, because teammates and coworkers think about him because, I get there and who's with him as soon as I get to the event. Caron Butler hanging out there with him. Midway through the morning session, who shows up on a Udonis Haslem. I wasn't there for the late session, but apparently Haywood Highsmith showed up. So, I think you notice around the league, how many stars have a relationship with Bam, but it's also, everybody in this organization as well is very, very fond of him. And they've been like that with him since, basically since he's walked in. That's why people had a lot of high thoughts on him right as he came into the league. So really great to see what he's doing in the community and putting his imprint there. But the, not only the community work, but look, I was going to go down there because I was either going to ask or I thought it was going to be in some kind of a scrum setting. So it was kind of an interesting thing that went down with my interview with him, because it was odd. They had sent out this schedule of like when media was going to speak at this thing. And, it had said it was something like 1:00 or something like that. And I got down there early because I don't know how this works, going to a basketball camp, see what the scene is. I don't know what time he gets there. Maybe some cool stuff happens, maybe, there's like one of those funny moments where he blocks a kid's shot and it goes viral. People love those videos, I don't know. So went down there to scope the scene, and one of the people who was running the events go, oh yeah, he's gonna talk a little earlier. I was like, oh, cool. And it was funny because I was like, oh, all right, that's awesome, because I did have other things to do that day too. So I was like, oh, good, I'm gonna get out here a little bit early. That's pretty awesome. Normally, and I'll tell you, as far as media is concerned, typically the odds that you ever get to talk to somebody early, not great. Usually it's like, oh, he's actually going to do it at like 4 p.m. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I can stick around for that. So it was kind of a delight to my ears that was going to be the case. So anyway, I did find it odd, though, that when I was there, at the time I was there wasn't really a lot of the mainstream local media there. Not the beat guys. I was like, this is kind of odd. There's no beat guys here. None of them showed up for Bam. There's no television stations. Nobody showed up for Bam. Yeah, there were some people there doing digital stuff and boots on the ground that way. There's not one way to it's not just the lineal mainstream media anymore. There's a lot of different ways, but I'm saying like the normal people that just see covering the games. I was like, man, nobody's here. That's a little bit odd. The only people that were there were the Heat TV. So my roundabout way of just explaining this is like I ended up basically getting like one-on-one time with Bam on this stuff, because I was brought over and they're like, all right, we're going to do media now. I was like, ah, cool. And it was Heat TV, and they were kind of like doing their thing. They were asking about the event. I know Heat TV is not going to ask him about the Damian Lillard stuff. I don't expect them to. But I was like, they were just like, oh yeah, you could just kind of go in there and fire away with your questions. But they had kind of taken all the, hey, what's the event? What are we doing here? What they had even asked like, how was your trip to South Africa? All that stuff. I was like, all right. So you'll notice in the video, he's like, I'm gonna fire right at him away the Damian Lillard stuff because they had kind of covered all of it. He had already been speaking for like 3 minutes exclusively with Heat TV. But the Heat TV was like, oh, you could just be there too. I was like, all right, cool. If you're cool with that, I'm cool with that. And so it's basically just Heat TV and me asking questions to Bam. But then I start the Dame questions, so they kind of stop it and just kind of turn into a one-on-one with them, which is cool. Bam and I have done a bunch of interviews, probably, aside from locker room, probably done like a half dozen one-on-ones with him or done on the radio show that interviewed him a lot. So, and always had a very professional, cool relationship with Bam. I know that he digs the show and all that stuff. He makes fun of Leroy. It's hilarious. So it was awkward because it was like I'm in this situation where the Heat people took all of the community questions like, what are you doing here, Bam? Tell us about your foundation. What does this mean to you? This is something very near and dear to his heart. I didn't want to be the cold jerk who's just like, what about Damian Lillard? But it actually did kind of come off that way. But thankfully, I think because we have a little bit of a jokey joke, relationship when it comes to that kind of stuff, I think it played off kind of cool. But anyway, if you missed it, this was the back and forth with Bam on Damian Lillard and what he had to say about the Heat's pursuit on him.
Yeah, big news off the court. Damian Lillard supposedly.
I knew you was gonna come over here with this, man.
The community question. That's not fair. I was gonna ask that stuff. What is your reaction to kind of all that going on? Obviously, you got a good relationship with that.
Right now the biggest thing, I'm not worried about that. Biggest thing is, me and Dame do have a connection. We do have a type of brotherhood, but it's business. Both sides want it to make sense. We're not a part of that. Well, I'm not a part of that. But the only thing I can do is spread my influence, and me and Dame just continue to be close friends.
When this all kind of started, though, he was on a podcast, and he just said hypothetically the first team that he wanted to come to was Miami because of you. When you guys were in the Olympics, was there talk, do you guys ever just banter just about what that would be like? Because you got that kind of taste of it?
You don't really have the banter or the conversation because at the end of the day, we were there for business, which was winning the gold. So, you do have those type of imaginations, but at the end of the day, we all understand it's business. It has to make sense. You can't always have your way. But the biggest thing for us is it could potentially happen.
So there you go. Obviously, ending with it could potentially happen, which is Goosey's galore. I think Bam handled that back and forth very, very well. I appreciate him willing to engage with it at any level with it because, look, I understand the awkwardness of it. I'll get to Udonis Haslem in just a second and that whole exchange because UD was very forthcoming with all that stuff, which he can be because he doesn't play for the Heat anymore. And to my knowledge, he doesn't technically have a position with the team right now. So he's just there supporting his guy, and UD's as real as it comes. But with Bam, I think, saying, look, it's business. When he says I'm spreading my influence, I think we know he's got a great relationship with Damian Lillard. I think that he's let it be known how much he would love playing with Damian Lillard. I think that he's probably maybe even relayed some messages, I would guess, in venture. Because people are like, oh, Tobin, you're going to get him fined. I'm like, you can't find, players can't get fined. There's no tampering for players. And quite frankly, it's kind of BS how the Trailblazers basically scared and whined to the league and complained them into Damian Lillard not being able to talk about this, which is kind of BS because we have seen other guys get to be on the record upset about things, and you basically took away the Damian Lillard. He couldn't do the Jimmy Butler thing where he's like, getting to say his side of the story. Only Cronin gets to say his side of the story. So, I do think that Bam says it well. Like, look, I get it that it has to make sense, that everybody's got to get what they want, but he's very clearly interested in it. Like, it's not like he's saying, it's not like the guy is against having Dame, a guy he does have a close relationship with, on the team. I think, for the people who are like, well, it's, you're putting him in a bad spot because of the Tyler Hero thing element to it. Like, look, dude, it's not. We see this all the time. Just because guys move on to other places, Jimmy and Goran Dragic, very close friends. He also is very close friends with Kyle Lowry. Do Jimmy and Goran hate each other? No, they're still cool. It's a business. It's a business, and especially it's a business for the guys who make oodles of money. It's only really a cold-hearted thing if, there's don't extend to Tyler Hero because of this. No, Tyler Hero's got 100 and whatever guaranteed money. Well, yeah, I'm sure he wants to be in Miami. It's not like the Heat have done wrong by Tyler Hero. Just like Tyler Hero's done wrong by the Heat. It is a business, and you're talking about Damian Lillard. He's one of the best players in the league. It's not like they're trying to, cast Tyler Hero off like he's Jordan Poole for, whatever remains of Chris Paul's groin. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate Bam being forthcoming with it. And the thing that was cool about it, honestly, was I had talked to him about that. I edited the video, posted it up, and then he ended up doing me. So I left the gym after I talked to Bam and UD. I'll get to UD again in just a second, but I had left, and I guess all the other media had come then thereafter, because after I'd spoken, I'm like, cool, got what I wanted on Dame. We talked about a lot of different stuff. We talked about Jay Rich. We talked about what he's doing this summer. Had some really cool thoughts on doing this foundation for his mom. I did go back to that, and you guys could all see that on the page. But it was funny enough that I left, and then I guess he did another media scrum with all the local media. I was like, oh, I guess they were still doing that. But I'd seen the quotes. They were basically kind of samesies, and and I think we got some interesting, margin stuff in there where, if you kind of read between the lines of it, you can see where Bam's at on the whole thing. So that was really cool of him. I do appreciate, him always being very generous with his time, and I appreciate him being as honest about it as he could with the whole thing. And then right then thereafter, Bam finishes up talking to some people, and who comes on over but Udonis Haslem. And Udonis Haslem kind of hobnobbing with some people, being nice, signing autographs. And I just was like, UD, can I get a couple minutes? UD, another dude, always been really cool with me. I think everybody's got a million. UD is awesome to those stories. The dude's as real as they come. He's really, really great. And Udonis, isn't really restrained by anything on talking about Damian Lillard. And so he but definitely brought a different variable to it, because for everybody who was talking about the Tyler Hero thing, that was really the first thing that UD brought up with all of it was, it's a little bit weird because I do have a relationship with Tyler. He does care about Tyler Hero. He's mentored Tyler Hero, basically since he's come here as a teenager, and, has talked about, all the different things, life stuff. What's it like growing up famous in Miami? And so he revealed when I asked about it, he's like, I've checked in on him. Checking in on him. I'm checking on how he's doing with the whole thing. If you missed it, here it was.
Obviously, the big thing of the summer is Damian Lillard. Yeah, it's interesting coming to Miami. What's been your reaction to that?
I'm just sitting around watching like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting around watching like everybody else. Obviously, I have a relationship with Tyler. So I keep in touch with him. I talk to him. I check on his mental. But I'm sitting here watching just like everybody else to see what happens next.
How has he been doing with all this? He deals with that a lot. He has to go through this.
I think one thing I told Tyler, and one thing that we focus on is, the time spent. And the time spent here is amazing. So whatever happens, he can walk away with his head up. 6th man of the year. 2 NBA finals, 3 Eastern Conference finals. His 4 or 5 years here has been, equivalent or better than people's most careers. So he has nothing to be ashamed about. He holds his head high. He handled his business, and if that happens and the trade goes through, he goes somewhere else. He continues to build and grow and get more money and get better as a player.
So, yeah, UD definitely bringing the other perspective of it. He does care about – UD's always the guy because, UD is he's a Miami legend, but UD was never a star, right? Like, so he always has that empathy of what it is like being the other guy, what it is like being – maybe the main guy outside of the main guys, right? Which is kind of what Tyler is. Like, Tyler Hero has always been the other guy next to Jimmy and Bam, but has never, he's been a borderline all-star. 6th man of the year has been amazing. And as UD said, like, look at his accolades, which are always impressive. But everybody, when we always are looking like, what's that next guy? The reason Tyler's always in it is because you just don't quite know, like, when is he going to be ready to make that leap? He's only 23 years old. And I think for UD to put it like that, like, look what he's done already and how much success since he's been here we've had with him. And yeah, I know people can be snarky and be like, well, he didn't really make 2 NBA finals because he wasn't there, man, and he was hurt. All right, you jerks. But like, Tyler Hero had a really good season this year. He had a great season last year. The guy's been a really good player, and people are acting like he's some kind of a scrub. And so for UD to put it out there like that, interesting from a couple fronts, because I do think that, again, going back to the Blazers kind of, murkying the water of a PR battle here by not allowing Dame to speak. And the Heat, executives aren't going to talk about it. They don't want to get tampering. So now you have this guy who is even mentions in this interview where I talked to him about Hall of Fame week's coming up. And Hall of Fame week for D Wade is going to be a bit of a Heat reunion. It is. Like, it's going to be, UD talked about how him, D Wade, Mickey, Nick, Pat, Spo, Zoe haven't really been in a room all together for an extended period of time. Yeah, they see each other in passing at the games or whatnot, but like actually getting a chance to hang out. I'm sure D Wade's going to have some kind of a Hall of Fame party there for them. And so to have that actual time to reflect on it, and yeah, you don't think that this stuff is going to get talked about? You don't think that UD is going to be part of the branch, the ownership management arm of the Miami Heat coming up soon? So yeah, it is fascinating that he's got the ability to navigate, I have this close relationship with Tyler Hero. I know what the sides are there. I understand what the Heat are trying to do. He understands they're a championship organization. He even mentioned at one point in this interview, he's talking about the Raptors. He goes, yeah, let's get it over with so we can go focus on winning another championship. Like, he's still referring to them as we. He's just not officially a we right now because he's not playing and we don't know what his position or ownership position or leadership position is going to be with the organization. We just know he's going to be part of the organization. I actually think I almost like the idea that he could just have this almost OG position where he doesn't have a position, because I'd always love to just get UD's raw thoughts. Like, it does suck when a guy becomes part of the organization, because they are shackled by the whole tampering thing, and Spo can't talk about it, and Andy Ellisberg can't talk about it, and all this stuff. So, but him mentioning all that stuff, one, I think it was interesting because, yeah, it does kind of sound like he's putting a bow on Tyler's career in a way, but he's also giving a lot of respect to Tyler, because I think there has been a lot of disrespect thrown around, and UD's dealt with a lot of that BS too. Like these jackass NBA meme pages that will say, oh, this guy, what is he getting a check for? What does he deserve this for? So he's got experience with shooting the trolls down and all that stuff. But ultimately, like, look, I appreciated those two guys for giving me the time and being cool with talking about that stuff. And, mostly also want to just say, like, dude, great work by Bam. Like, great work, doing this in the organization and this is the 5th year they've done that camp and trying to raise money for kids down here who need it. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's an awesome thing that it's such an important thing. And by the way, Tyler Hero's done a great job with that stuff too. Tyler, when like Surfside went down, when Tyler was out in the community and does great work with his stuff too. So I think that UD really does appreciate this stuff. So if you guys haven't watched the whole interviews, they're on the page. You guys can check them on out. And see what they had to say on those things. But I don't know if I got any like real timeline updates of it, but it's a fascinating thing. That is hanging over the organization. And I do think that when we do get closer, this kind of like last bow of the NBA season is the Hall of Fame. And then it's kind of like, yeah, you have this lull, and then we'll turn our attention. Usually training camp starts at the end of September, and we'll see if we have answers by then. But I say ultimately, like, yeah, it's pretty clear Bam's interested in playing with Dame. But, you know, there's a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of hang up right now and stuff that they got to deal with all this. So fascinating stuff from those guys and everything they had to bring, and appreciate them giving me some time on it.